Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Aretha. Today, I'd like to talk about how sometimes we let our own thoughts bully us. We let our mind work against us. And I'd like to offer three suggestions for how to change that. I think life will challenge us anyway, and we don't need to add to that by entertaining thoughts and beliefs that don't really serve us. The central idea behind this video is that some of the things we decided are true for us don't have to be. Now, I don't deny that there are universal truths. For example, all the scientific facts apply to everyone. Gravity doesn't discriminate, and we all know that water boils at a certain temperature. Some of these things are true for everyone. Then there are all the conventions that we all collectively agreed to. For example, we all agreed on what the country names are because that helps us function as a society. But beyond that, our day to day experience of life is largely subjective, and it's shaped by the things we believe, either because we decided they would be true for us or because these were passed down to us from others. And I want to clarify that it is okay to believe whatever you want to believe as long as it benefits you, as long as it helps you and doesn't hurt anybody else. So, for example, one person might find skydiving to be very exciting. Someone else might think it's too scary and just not worth the hype. Both statements can be true, and one doesn't really discredit the other. Skydiving can be very fun and exhilarating, but also skydiving can be scary, and it is not something you're required to do, so you could skip over it. In that instance, believing that you don't like it and it's not for you is fine. It doesn't take it away from other people, but it also doesn't hurt you in any way because you can just choose to do something else. So both versions are true. But let's say, for example, that you think that fancy things are for other people, or, nice things are for a different kind of people. Well, that thought can be true. If you never partake in anything fancy because you've decided it's not for you, you will find that to be true. But it doesn't have to be true for you, right? If you want fancy things, you could go and get fancy things. There are no laws that say that you cannot have them. So now you have to consider whether believing that fancy things are not for you is helping you or is it hurting you. If it's keeping you from ever trying or feeling like you deserve nice things, then it's definitely hurting you. And this is a version of the truth that you've created for yourself. But you could work on changing that if you find that it is hurting you. So now that I've set the stage for what this video is about, let's talk about the three suggestions I have to kind of get out of our own way. My first suggestion is to stop creating unnecessary suffering. And I have a really good example for that. Just a few days ago, I had to go in and get my infusion treatment. I mentioned in a different video that I suffer from Crohn's disease and I have to go in and receive an IV treatment every other month. So I went in, and this time around, the nurse had to poke around my arm to find the vein. The process of her looking for the vein was pretty uncomfortable, and I will say it was painful. But pain is different than suffering. Pain is something that is inevitable. We will all encounter it. It's just part of being alive, part of the deal. Suffering is optional in the sense that sometimes we manufacture it for ourselves. So let's go back to my example about getting the infusion. If I were someone who's terrified of needles, I'm not, but some people are. If I was so terrified of needles that for 2 days in advance of my infusion treatment, I started thinking about the process and started worrying and feeling anxious and imagining the pain, and that would be 48 hours spent suffering needlessly. And here's why. Whether or not I imagine the pain, I still intend to show up for my appointment. So thinking about it in advance doesn't change anything. There's nothing for me to do with that information. I'm not going to not go to my appointment. I'm not going to figure out a way to make it less painful. I'm literally thinking about it in advance just for the sake of thinking about it. There is no positive outcome that comes from it. So let's say it's 2 days before my infusion treatment, and I am at the park with my dog and we're having a great time. If I suddenly become overwhelmed with thoughts about the procedure, what's going to happen, how painful it'll be, and I start dreading it and I start living in that negative place of anticipation, then I have just ruined my whole day. And instead of enjoying being on a walk, enjoying my dog, enjoying the fact that I am having a great time at that moment, I instead begin to suffer. If I entertain those thoughts and fuel them, then I can spend the next 2 days just feeling miserable and scared and anxious and nervous with no purpose because it doesn't change anything. The day of the event, the procedure itself may not last more than 30 seconds. The process of being poked with a needle is not going to last more than 30 seconds. And what I have done is that I've taken the pain of 30 seconds and stretched it over 2 days of suffering. The way to avoid that is to bring yourself back to the present as soon as those thoughts start to appear. So, going back to the example of me at the park with my dog, as soon as the first negative thought pops up, the first feeling of dread just starts to appear, what I can do is start sprinting with my dog, pet my dog, do something that brings me back to the present, right? Look around, notice the trees. Just tell myself that right now, in this moment, I'm doing fine. There is no pain right now. No one's poking me with a needle. I'm outside, and basically walk myself through what is happening with me at that moment so I can come back to the present. So try that next time you find yourself suffering pointlessly about something that you cannot change. My second suggestion is to not sell yourself short ahead of time. So I have this very annoying skill where I can anticipate the worst case scenario in any situation. So I imagine a future negative scenario and I let myself feel miserable today about the possibility that it will happen. And the key word here is possibility. Because it's in the future, there's no way for me to guarantee that it will in fact happen. So that is the perfect definition of a waste of time and a waste of energy. If I spend my time feeling bad about a version of the future that I think would be very terrible, and then that version never happens, and all the time I spend thinking about it and concocting it in my head and like feeling the negative feelings and feeling the desperation, the dread, whatever it may be related to that future scenario, that was 100% pointless. Now, there's a difference. When you anticipate something bad that is likely to happen and you use it to prepare in case it happens, that's one thing. And I find that if you have the option to prepare for something and make some changes or some tweaks so it doesn't happen as badly, then you feel good that you've fixed a potential problem in the future. But a lot of times we just think about the worst case scenario in a frame of mind where it's not something we can change. We cannot manipulate it, and we just sit and feel bad about the fact that this could happen. So there's really no benefit to thinking about something that may happen if it never does. But even if the bad thing does happen, it still doesn't help you to stretch out the negativity of that event into your present. Let's take an example to kind of make this a little bit easier to understand. Let's say I have a presentation that I have to deliver tomorrow morning. My natural tendency is that the night before, I start thinking about all the ways that I could flop tomorrow. I think about how I can embarrass myself, how I can forget parts of my presentation, how I will look stupid out there, how everyone will see through me that I don't know anything about anything, and eventually I'm definitely going to get fired because my presentation will be so terrible. I think you can see how if you let these kinds of thoughts go unchecked, they can spiral into something really messy. Now, a better way to spend my time would be to imagine what it would look like if I did amazingly at the presentation tomorrow. What if I stood up straight and I spoke eloquently and I remembered all my talking points and I was smiling and I looked confident the entire time and I did so well that I got a promotion from it? Neither one of these thought patterns will change what happens tomorrow. Even if I thought positive thoughts, tomorrow I could still flop. All things being equal, why suffer longer than the 30 minutes that the presentation will actually last? If I suck for 30 minutes, let it be 30 minutes. Why do I need to be miserable and self-conscious and uncomfortable for the night leading up to it? There's no reason to stretch out things that are difficult and make them last longer than they need to. So that's the absolute worst case scenario. Tomorrow I still flop. What could also happen is that by choosing to think positive thoughts, by rehearsing how I could be amazing tomorrow, I'm actually priming myself to do a really good job tomorrow. So there's an upside, but there's no downside thinking positively tonight. So when we choose to think thoughts that make us feel good today, it may not change anything in the future. It may not change the fact that you can still fumble the next day or things can go wrong the next day. But what it does is not stretch out something difficult that you have to do anyway and let it take over more space than it should. And my last suggestion is to pick a version of the truth that actually supports you. Let's say you are applying for a job because you need a job. The process of looking for a job can be pretty uncomfortable because you're putting yourself out there and you're hoping that someone will select you. It is uncomfortable by nature, but you will not stop looking for a job just because it's uncomfortable. You still have to do it. So, why would you let your own thoughts make it even harder for you to go through the steps of applying? If you tell yourself and everyone around you that there are no good jobs out there, the market is so complicated, people don't want to hire qualified employees, and you give yourself all these negative ideas about how difficult and how unsurmountable the process of looking for a job is. There is some truth to that. People have struggled, people are trying to find, people are applying, are going to multiple interviews, and are not getting jobs. But that is only one version of the truth. There is another version of the truth where other people are getting hired. Somehow they're getting hired. So you can choose to focus on the fact that a lot of people are there struggling, or you can focus on the fact that somehow a lot of people out there are still finding jobs. One thought will help you feel a little bit more hopeful and make the process a little bit easier, and the other thought will make you feel defeated from the beginning. And here's the kicker: it'll make you feel defeated, but you will still continue to apply, because here's the thing, you still need to apply for the job. So if this is something you cannot stop doing, you cannot avoid doing, you cannot choose not to do, then why would you choose to entertain thoughts that make it 10 times or 100 times harder to pick yourself up and go through the steps? So maybe you don't have to lie to yourself and say, oh, the job search is so easy, but maybe you can just focus on the fact that people out there are finding jobs. And so we're not talking about being all Pollyanna and lying about the realities, but we also don't want to be so negative that we don't even want to pick ourselves up to get started. Similarly, let's say that you are single and you want to start dating again. If you believe that there are no good people to date, or you tell all your friends about how everyone out there is a loser, then you're basically hurting yourself. It's fine to entertain those thoughts if you are happily single. If you want to remain single and you don't want to date, then telling yourself that the dating pool is shallow doesn't hurt you, because it's not interfering with anything you want. But if you secretly really want to be dating someone, you're really looking for someone, then you're really working against yourself by letting your brain tell you that it's a lost cause from the beginning, because you will not stop wanting it, but now you are conflicted between wanting something that you've also told yourself would never happen for you. Think about ways that you are getting in your own way, and wherever you can, make things slightly easier for yourself. Now, whether you're optimistic or pessimistic about the dating pool doesn't really change who is out there. But being positive makes it more likely that you will look for the right person and find them, because you'll be open to the idea that they're there. But even if you don't find them immediately, the process of looking will feel better because you're hoping to find something. If the predominant thought you have is that this is pointless, I'll never find anyone, and you also don't want to stop looking, then what are you doing to yourself? Ultimately, your thoughts are your own. You can choose to believe whatever you want. But be mindful about focusing on the version of reality that gets in the way of the things you're actively trying to pursue. There may be a lot of terrible employers out there, but there are also some that make their employees very happy. There may be a lot of losers out there, but somehow people are finding great people to date. So, what part of reality would you like to focus on to make the process of searching a lot easier for yourself? Don't let your thoughts go unchecked and your mind wander in a direction that makes you feel miserable or makes you suffer needlessly. As much as possible, as long as it's within your control, bring it back to something positive so that you can feel better as you go through life. We all have to do a lot of difficult things, but we don't have to extend the difficulty of those things. We don't have to stretch the suck. Even if you cannot change the world around you, you can minimize the amount of misery and suffering you are creating for yourself. So I encourage you to examine your recurring thoughts and consider whether or not they are helpful to you. Do they really serve you? Or should you replace them with a version that makes you feel better? All else being equal, why not feel better? Remember to give me a thumbs up on this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment.